Warning, long post ahead. My grammar is ass, and there's a lot to it, so forgive me. Was only a 5-month relationship, but seriously, don't think I've ever hurt this way over a relationship. Feels like the only times I can justify ending it and stop myself from reaching out to her is when I play back the entirety of our relationship and realize all of the red flags that were waving in front of me that I looked past when I should have ran in the other direction. So now I'm writing this out, as I generally like to get the public's opinion on these, and if anybody has been through something similar. Background. We met on Hinge in early May of this year, and she is a 33F with an 8-year-old, and I'm a 35M with no kids. Will do my best to post this chronologically. On our first FT call, which was on a Wednesday night and before meeting in person, we lived roughly 2 hours away from each other, she had been drinking, and we end up talking until 3 a.m. At this point, she's near blackout drunk and tells me I should drive to her to have sex with her. I didn't, since I had work in a few hours, and she got visibly upset and hung up the phone. All this while, her 8-year-old is sleeping in his room. Told myself she probably isn't the one for me after that, but kept talking to her since she messaged me the next morning like nothing happened. We end up meeting later that week, and it goes great, and I stay with her for the weekend. The next week, she goes to the beach with some friends and ends up getting drunk and saying on an FT call that she loves me. This is 9 days after meeting me. I don't say it back, as she's obviously drunk, but still. The next night, on another drunk FT call from her, she nonchalantly says she gave a guy her number at the bar because he was buying her drinks, all while basically texting me the whole day, and obviously drunk FaceTiming and calling me whenever, which I never asked for, BTW. She also was FaceTiming me with one of her friends, which was like 20 years older and married, and they were kind of all over each other. Was really weird. This is the moment I look back on where I really should have ended things, but we had a great time when we were together, so I didn't. Went through my phone while I was napping at her house and think she used my face to get into my phone since she didn't have my passcode at this time. Didn't really care as there wasn't anything on there. Not long after, she insinuated that I needed to unfollow any girl that I had gone on a date with, and if I didn't, meant I was still into them. I unfollowed because I didn't care, but when I said, "Why don't you do the same?" she vehemently said no. Which, that didn't upset me, but the fact that it was a rule for thee, not for me attitude from her really rubbed me the wrong way and did get upset by that. This would be a them for our relationship. Few weeks later, we go to a concert, which I wanted to go to and wanted her to go with me so I didn't have to go alone, but was a few hours away, so I get us a hotel, pay for tickets, all that, which no issue with all of that, but after the concert and us both being quite intoxicated, we get back to the hotel, she starts crying and just saying that she doesn't deserve me and that I deserve more. Honestly, thought it was touching of her to say so I comforted her, saying that isn't true and she's exactly what I want. Next day, go to her dad's, who I'm meeting he and his wife for the first time, and we all drink, and her dad get in a huge fight that she started. Was super awkward for me. Her dad's wife and most of her family would joke about how she's going to ruin this one, or what she's going to do to me, and basically implied I should run. Or that's what I think now. They'd also always tell her to be nice to me, which thought was wild, but turned out that's what I'd be begging from her down the road. Another time, we're drinking at her house and around 4 a.m., heavy drinking was also a theme, listening to music and an acoustic version of Mirrors by JT comes on, to which we dance to, kiss, and lovey-dovey shit, and she says, this should be our wedding song, so I ask her to send me the link as I was drunk and in love in that moment. Right after, she asks me to look something up in her phone and don't worry about my messages, I'm flirty with customers, which she was in sales. But I see that she had sent that same Mirrors link to her baby daddy a minute before she sent it to me. Our names are not similar, and they did not talk consistently. This really upsets me as I don't see how that could be an accident. She basically plays dumb and blames it on her 8-year-old that he could have done it off his iPad, who was asleep in the other room. I wasn't buying that, and she immediately goes, "I don't need this. Get out of my house." Her favorite words anytime she got caught, as she'd never take accountability. Another night, she had been drinking, and I show up from driving 2 hours to see her, and she's already pretty buzzed at around 8 p.m. and clearly not in a good mood. And out of nowhere, she tells me I'm the reason that my previous ex had taken her own life. Another long story and very sad. My ex had bipolar 1 and suffered a mental breakdown where I had to get her family and the police involved multiple times, was finally able to move out, and my ex took her life 5 months after our breakup and after she had spent a month at a detox facility. I had also tried to take my own life years ago, which New GF knew about, as I'm very open about my battle with depression, and suicide is a huge deal to me. None of this seemed to matter to her, as she doubled down on it by saying, "Well, my friends think so, and what else do I say to them?" She'd say that to me about 5 more times in our relationship, as I think she knew that hurt me the most. At this point, I'd get angry and argue with her, as I couldn't take it, but we'd eventually calm down and just not really discuss anything the next day. These were big fights, which she would get physical and hit me or throw something. Anytime, though, her first words were, "I don't need this, get out of my house," and this was before things would escalate. She'd also always joke about me paying for her boob job, lip filler, Botox, etc., plus would never offer to pay for anything or even pitch in, even when it was buying dinners for her and her son or on trips that she planned. When I'd ask, she'd basically either be insulted or just laugh. She also said she should get a portion of any commission checks I received from my job, even though she had nothing to do with it. We had each other's location, but all of the sudden, hers stopped, and when I questioned her on it, she said it was because of issues with her Apple ID, which I really didn't buy, but was water off a duck's back at the time. Was impossible to ever get her to say sorry or for her to take accountability in any of the fights that she or her actions usually caused. She would fight with her family when they were all drunk and say the most hurtful things to them as well. Her sister had a miscarriage, and a week or so after, told me that it's time for her to get over it already. Told her dad that her sister was right about you, and her dad and her sister essentially have no relationship. Would call me a psycho when I would get upset and yell, but it was only after being pushed so far and her never hearing me out on my side of the story. I'll agree, I was crazy in those moments, but I've been going to therapy for years and hate that I would let her get to me that much. Towards the 3-month mark, everything she liked about me at first seemed to annoy her. Would constantly critique me on any and everything and just say where would I be without her. And this wasn't constructive criticism, and it was everything. How I drive, how I eat, how I sleep, how I smile, everything. The times I'd be in a good mood and goofy, I'd try to be playful with her and would usually say, "When did you take your drugs today? I have a Vyvanse prescription." After a lot of this, I end up taking a remote job and moving to be about 20 minutes from her, which things really started going south once I officially signed my lease to move. Just hot and cold and zero consistency. Would always talk about how her ex was abusive and how awful it was, which I'm sure there's some truth to, but now believe that she absolutely had a part in it. She did get arrested for assault on a family member, but charges were dropped. Got mad at me for not door-dashing her food to her hotel room while she was at a conference. This was after she drunkenly FaceTimed me with a guy in her room hours earlier. Did seem friendly, but still. After that FT call, didn't talk to me for hours, but I told her to focus on the conference as it was a good opportunity for her, but didn't like her drunkenly demanding me to get her food and got so mad when I said no. Would get mad at me if I didn't buy her alcohol or really anything, would basically go silent on me after these instances. When we'd go out, we'd usually make friends as we're both sociable and in sales, but towards the end, it was usually only about her and would ignore me to talk to other men, and I mean right in front of me. Most of the time, I did think it was innocent, but still, she loved the attention. This peaked about a month ago when I invited her to watch a football game with my friend and I at a bar. She was pissed the second she got there at me for her having to drive 30 minutes to get there. I try to calm her down and nothing. She gets drunk very soon after and texts a guy she had previously slept with to come see us. I immediately start fuming as I do not think this is okay and know if I did the same thing, I would have got hit. Guy shows up, I walk with her because I do not trust her, and with the biggest smile on her face, jumps in his arms and wraps her legs around him, all in front of me. Later that night, she gives her number to multiple guys in front of me, and very flirty with one, and I confront her and she hits me, probably 30 times, which I never once hit her, but definitely called her a slut a lot. She leaves, drunk F, and asks me to pay for her Uber, which I told her to go fuck herself. She leaves and basically walks the streets for a few hours. I then get a call from her dad as he's saying she called him, and I have to tell him everything that happened. They're worried because she's definitely a danger to herself, and basically saying she's going to kill herself would also be a theme. So I call them and end up picking her up because I don't want her to die. End up driving her to my place, to which she's too drunk and gets mad that I didn't take her to a bar. She gets mad, leaves, and again demand I pay for an Uber to the bar for her. She's gone for an hour to 2 hours and calls asking if she can stay with me. I eventually give in, saying only to have sex with her. The sex was great in my eyes and think she knew she had that over me as it got less and less, and usually only when she was on my bad side. Few weeks go by and we never really talk about that night as right after her aunt passes away and don't want to get in the way of her focusing on that, but she's nice, calling me all the time, sober and drunk, but still was clear she was trying. She also had her sister's bachelorette party the next weekend where they got in a huge fight, and I stayed on the phone with her until 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. one night trying to calm her down. Anyways, that night, still heavily on my mind and never discuss it, we go out, she gets blackout drunk, and I go through her phone and see she has a deleted message from one of her customers who was at least 20 years older and married and had sent him a bikini photo while on this bachelorette trip where she could hardly text me during the day. Saw the messages to the guy she invited to the bar that she had slept with and were far more than flirty. Saw that her location did in fact look like it worked for everyone but me, and I lost it. Grabbed my shit, told her what a shitty, awful person she was, and left. This wasn't before she said she was going to fuck one of my best friends and good luck doing better than me. I was not nice in my response at all at this point, and finally left, but sent about 15 more messages that night telling her what an awful human she was. One last thing. Anytime I would actually leave when she told me to, she'd immediately text me saying lines like, "This one is on you. It's vertical, right? And remember me." Or that I never loved her, how she can't be herself, which was all just horseshit guilt trips. And that's where no contact begins, 15 days ago. If you made it this far, I apologize for the novel, but have to get all of this somewhere, as I feel like I'm losing my mind ruminating and hoping that she'll reach out to apologize for everything that she did, or that she sees how much she hurt me. And not to get back with her, but so I feel less crazy, and that she finally validates me on how I'm feeling after all of this. I know that call will never come, as I'm sure she already has her next victim, and I'm now the new crazy ex in her life, like all of the other guys were to me.